I'm Narelle Todd.
And I'm Essie Susan Smith.
We are the self-publishing author and marketing duo that has sold over 2 million books. But we didn't start out knowing how to sell books. Fast forward past many failed promotions and a lot of lessons learned, you will see how we went from self-publishing newbies to hitting the New York Times bestsellers list and making the USA Today bestsellers list 19 times and counting. We created the Get My Book Out There podcast to give you simple yet effective marketing strategies to increase readership and book sales, so you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, as well as some tips for staying mentally and physically well.
Let's get started.
And today we have a very special guest appearance with Donna McDonald. Hi, Donna.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me.
We're absolutely thrilled to have Donna here. I met Donna, it'd be 2 years? I don't know.
3 years?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. The years just seem much longer in COVID times.
Narelle inspired a character in one of my books. I even named a character after her.
Yes. And I told you about Australian drop bears, and we had
yes. And I actually used that in my story.
That was fun. So it's always good just to catch up again, Donna. So thrilled to actually see you in person, and thrilled to actually be talking to you, because I think as a writer, you can share some really amazing things with other writers simply from the fact that you write in so many different genres, or you have a spin perhaps on different genres.
I do. That's true. It's true.
Tell us about that. Tell us all the genres that you write in.
Okay. I write contemporary romance, both the steamy kind and the close the door kind. And I write science fiction, paranormal, and recently my newest series is a fantasy series. It's based in mythology, and but it's also like I like mixed genres, so I don't like. I write the book and then I figure out where am I going to classify it, and because you don't have to declare yourself to retailers, this category, and so I sometimes have trouble picking that. I'll start with one and then
I think the retailers have it all wrong. I mean, because as a reader, I want to read a little bit of everything. I don't want to be put into a box. So I love the fact that you write in so many different ways.
I do it for selfish reasons. My creativity is based in whatever I want to do. And so it's not like I think, I do plan some, but mostly I just get inspired and I write what I want to write. And that's the beauty of being an indie author, is that I kind of can indulge that side of me. Now, I will be the first person to admit that it's a marketing nightmare to it's so much better if you, like I have friends in that they write one thing and one thing only, and they have this one giant audience, whereas I have such diverse audiences, I had to divide them into two, and I was lucky. And then that second audience, my larger one, I've got it subdivided into four so that I don't, send the mythology book to the sci-fi readers because I don't want that one, So it's a lot of work I made for myself by doing this to market. But boy, it's the fun. That's what I like about it.
And I think that's an interesting point that you raise, and one that Susan and I discussed in a previous podcast around writing to market. So there's a big push amongst many groups, author groups, that in order to be successful, you need to write to market. So you put away what you want to write as an author and you go and find, what's a good selling genre, and then you write content, or, you write a story for that. And
or you compromise. I did this during COVID. I did exactly this. There was a new genre that started at Amazon by two very well-known, large audience authors called paranormal women's fiction. And what that basically is a combination of the two. It's women's stories. Most of the characters are over 40. They've gone through some life-changing events like divorce or death or something, and they're starting their life over. But oh gee, what? I'm a witch. I am a werewolf. I'm whatever. And they're very fun. You get to see how older women handle their issues. And then you get, what's it like to be a witch who needs reading glasses? What's it like to be a werewolf with a knee problem? And so it lends itself to comedy. It lends itself to hilarity and got very popular. Well, I've been writing older characters for 10 years, 11 years now, I guess. And that was in my wheelhouse, but not a lot of paranormal. I had like a series or, I love sci-fi, I think, but that's not as popular for me in my work as the paranormal. So I thought, oh, well, I can do this. I can do this. And I started down the path. And then I thought, wow, what I really want to write is this story about this goddess. Well, that's fantasy. But okay, so how do I get the paranormal element to work? I thought, okay, I'll make the hero a dragon. I love dragons. So, okay, so that's what I did. And that is currently my best-selling series. And it's paranormal women's fiction in the sense that it meets that criteria, because it's basically a goddess who nobody knew about, but the whole realm gets put on Earth and they're all becoming mortal, losing their powers. And she's now on Earth, a 40-year-old nearly mortal. And so her journey through these series is get her powers back, save her people, and let them all go home. But, how do you do that when you're 40 and you have all these issues you have to contend with? And oh, by the way, she's never really been in love, or so she's got all that stuff to do. And the hero turns out to be nothing like she expected. She went looking for one guy and ended up with inappropriate person. So I did that all worked. Then because it's me, I write a lot of older women, younger men. I made him much younger than her. I have a great time. That's very action-packed, very much adventure. And the thing that's great about this series is the romance isn't required. So you can have the romance across 3 or 4. Like they just got together in book 3, really got together. And then now in book 4, they're already surmounting these odds that are stacked against them. So did I write to market? Yes, because that was a brand new genre, less competition and all that. But did I write something I didn't want to write? No. I found a way to take something I wanted to write and make that fit. I'm a stretch. I'm not the norm in that genre, but the readers seem to like me anyway. And it was a way to reach readers that's very challenging right now. Very challenging to what we call rising above the noise, because there's so many published authors and so many books. And then how do you get discovered? It's super challenging. I know you guys know this. I mean, I'm sure you talk about that a lot.
Yes. Yeah. It certainly is, with a lot more. I think the more authors that come and the bigger KU get, the harder it is, particularly, I think, for wider published authors to be seen.
Absolutely.
Visibility.
When I started, one of the things was I won't say the word required, because of course this genre is not official by any means. It's kind of like just something that's hanging out there. But if you wanted to satisfy the readers in the way that they started, then KU. So you were Amazon exclusive. I recently moved that series, the first 2 books, out of Amazon and started going wide with them. So now my strategy is, if they want to read it in KU, they've got 90 days. Then they're going wide, because I have a wide audience, and Amazon is my, like most people, the largest one, but it's by no means the only one where I'm selling. And so I want to reach as many readers as I can in a wide audience. These are all hard decisions. I know every author has to wrestle them down to the ground and figure out what they want to do. And COVID didn't make it any easier. It made it harder, because then everybody that was home and had some free time said, I'm going to write a book.
Yes,
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it was true.
And I see a lot coming through my feed at the moment, or authors have been contacting me and saying, they've been doing these courses and they just need to write a 50-page book and just release this 50-page kind of scripted. It's almost in the Mills and Boons. It's very you do this, then this, then this, and you just keep repeating. And I'm going, oh, I'm not the person to help you. and using KU. So it's almost like, I think a rush of people have come into KU in particular, and with this process or system that someone's promoting. And
I think if you're selling erotic romance or erotic novels of any sort, that there's a following there and you might do well. If you're selling something else that is targeting a certain genre or a certain audience, let's use the mythology series I've got right now. So, I advertise it to the particular group and they go get it. And so, release week is nice. And you're thinking, okay, this is really good. And you're in KU. First month is fantastic. Second month is like, it's okay. And the third month you're saying, man, if that was wide And that's where we all end up, I think, with being with exclusivity. Either that needs to back down because, used to, when you hit a ranking with a book, when you released it, that lasted 3 months. Over the decade I've been writing, it goes from 3 months down till it was like 2 months. And then finally it was like 30 days, that just in the last few years. And then suddenly it's 1 week, 1 week.
If you're lucky.
Maybe two. Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of days, and it just depends on your audience. So to say that you're exclusive for 90 days, that doesn't sound like a very long time, but in reality, when you're trying to make back the cost of your cover, make back the cost of your editing, make back the cost of things, and still show a profit so you can keep your electric
time
on.
alone.
Yeah, time alone, right. And then, to keep your bills paid, it's every author for themselves has to make that call. It's tough. And it's getting harder, not easier. Every year it's like tougher and tougher.
Yeah. Is there been anything that you found like any aha moment that you've had in the last, year or so? Well, we've all kind of, been stuck at home and doing that. Did anything show up for you in the business, in life in general for you that you would want to share?
Yes, I had quite a few things. And one of them was being creative was terribly hard. I go and do things. I go walk. I go visit things. I travel. It feeds my soul. It fills up that empty well. Suddenly I'm writing and I'm not getting anything out there. And then, so from the business standpoint, that isolation, I really learned what that was like and how you really, as an author, need to have a network. So I talked to my friends on the phone. They even, for my birthday, we all got on Zoom. We were doing these things, trying to stay in touch. And eventually that just tapered off until we're all kind of working alone again. And it's like we all start before we network. So it was like somebody had rolled back the clock to where I didn't have anyone to talk to except now and again. So that isolation impacted my creativity. And it wasn't just me. I mean, and then so I know for author friends I have that suffer from like depression issues, it was worse on them. I was just grumbly and contrary and hard to get along with and leave me alone because I was unhappy. But, for the people with depression, I'm sure that was even far worse because that would be terrible. So I basically got a new appreciation, you could say, for every single person and connection I have that talks to me. And boy, getting a note from a reader during that time was just like, hand me an Academy Award, because that's what it felt like to say, oh, I read your book and it made me laugh. And I was just like, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
I felt the same way. When you get that email that picked me up, it's like a connection with the outside world and a realization that, you're not alone anymore.
Right.
And it's just, it's an unexpected, unexplainable feeling that, I think humans are naturally, are social animal. So when you're pulled apart or you're limited in your social group, when you're used to much more freedoms and meeting more people and stuff, it really does have that negative effect on your creativity.
When I started my career, I was in RWA, but I was the black sheep of my RWA group in the sense that I was always writing, my very first romance that I, published had a 50-year-old heroine. I shopped it and everybody said to me, well, can you make her younger? I'm like, well, if I make her younger, then it's a whole different story. The whole point is she's turning 50. She keeps asking people, the book opens with her asking people, do you think 50 is old? Because what does 50 mean? What's it mean to be 50 and not married? And what do people think of you? And all that was part of hers. And she's a very successful businesswoman. She has everything else, which is where a lot of 50-year-olds are, 50-year-old women are in life if they've had a career. And so to be told over and over in these, oh, you're a great writer. Oh, we think this is a cute premise, but we don't think we can sell it. She's too old. And I said, with all these baby boomers, my heroine's too old. And so I didn't have any support. And but I found out about indie publishing, so I wanted to do that. And then I had friends that I thought, well, she's been writing this book for 5 years. And these were other RWA people. And so we would leave the meeting and then we stand in the parking lot and they'd be asking me, so what have you done? Are you doing it? Are you going ahead? And so I plowed down this road that I wasn't the first by any means, but in 2010, not many people were doing it still. And I published in March of 2011, the first 2 books at the same time, one for free because I didn't know if I even was going to sell, and the second one with money. And back then it was $2.99. That was top price. And then I started seeing myself as the sales crept up, going matching all these authors that I'd read in the traditional world, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's Christy Craig right next to me, and the Also Bots, and I was just like so thrilled for all that. But I was lonely still, and then all these other people kept, we stand in the parking lot, and it grew from 2 of us to 3 of us to 5 of us to 8 of us. Let's get a table somewhere and talk, let's don't stand on our cars. So I basically started sharing this information because it was a way for all of us to do it. And I've never looked back from that. It's been absolutely wonderful thing for me. There's no way I think a regular author would have to go get 3 houses to do all the stuff that I have done by myself, because there's nobody saying, I don't think I can sell that. It's like I put it out there and I either sell it or I don't. But everything sells. It's just a matter of, am I getting the big numbers? No. Am I solid, and have I been solid for 10 years? Absolutely. So what's success, and what was your goals? Well, so I did a lot of, let's say I rethought my life a lot during this last, and where I'd come from and where I wasn't maybe where I wanted to be. So hybrid contracts, I think that's smart for some people. I would consider them. Like where I was at the beginning, it's not where I am now, because in the era of so much noise to try to sell anything that you can do to get yourself seen and Susan's a master at it. And, I have friends that are masters of it. Advertising is hard for me. Marketing's hard for me. PR is hard for me. All of that is difficult. The other thing I went through during the COVID year was I was personally sick. I did not have COVID. I had some other things that caught up with me. And it started with anemia that put me in the hospital that I didn't even realize that was what was going on. And then from there, it was like procedures and surgeries. And I spent 10 months of last year of 2020 having work done until finally, they resolved the problem. But it was life-threatening, and it was something that could have gotten much, much worse than it had. And I'm very blessed that it all worked out the way it did. But when that happens, you are on hold. And so, throughout all this, I wasn't even able to think the questions like, will people still wait for me if I don't get this done on time? Or when I get done, will I still be the same person I was? I went through a whole nearly a year of self-doubt of that. And so that was, I heard other people have that journey, but I took it myself last year. And this year I feel like I'm back, I'm sharp, life is good. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't even know how bad I was. I did not know till I went through it. I can only see it in retrospect, looking behind. Yeah, so that it was a challenging year, 2020 was for me. And all the memes, I would just roll my eyes and say, yep, that's it. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Donna.
Well, I'm not the person who puts it on Facebook. You won't find anything about it anywhere else. I like to be positive, and I was positive through it. I had the help of friends. I would call, and when I get frustrated, I'd call and say, cheer me up. They tell me jokes. They tell me good things. This is going to pass. Everything's going to be fine. And my doctors were all great. So, it was a win-win, but it was tough. And so I'm blessed. I am blessed that it's there in 2020 with everything else. COVID to me was secondary. But I had to be a hermit because I wasn't allowed to be exposed to anyone for a lot of reasons.
I think in everyone that I speak to, 2020 in some way has been a year that sort of amplified. And for some it's amplified good, and for others it just seemed to amplify some of the challenges. Yeah, so it was a tough year. 2020 was going to be a brilliant year. I had great plans for 2020.
Me too. The year started out great for me. I think Susan called me and said, I need an assistant for this. My assistant can't go. My normal assistant can't go. Do you want to go to a conference and be my assistant? And I said, yeah, I'll come carry your books and, carry you. And so I stood and helped her sell things, and we had a great time. Mostly I wanted to see Susan. So, I jump at any chance to visit with friends. And so that was fun. And I actually came back from that encouraged and feeling great. And then, of course, the month I got back, it was February, I think it was. And then it was a lockdown started. And it was like somebody went, pow.
Yeah.
No, get in your chair. And then it was like a month or two later when I started getting sick, and it was like, wow, this. Right. At the end of the year, I was just like, this is not where I intended to be at all.
Yeah. It's certainly been weird. No other word for it.
This year I was just like, I've been all year building up to going to anywhere. It didn't matter. And I flew for the first time in 3 years yesterday. It was very bizarre after not traveling at all.
Yeah.
Have you gone? Have you traveled much, Laurel, in this time?
No, well, 2020 for me, I was going overseas for 6 months.
Wow.
And that ended really quick because I didn't want to be over there. And where I live in North Queensland, we've had no COVID at all.
None?
And no,
Oh, that's
like,
amazing. That's amazing.
It's like being in an alternate reality of everybody in, my part of the state, the top part of Queensland. Life has just continued on. But I know the impact, because a lot of my clients are in the US, and, the impact. And I've had...
My daughter-in-law is a respiratory therapist in our local hospital in Lexington, Kentucky.
Gosh.
I live outside of Lexington, but she's there. And she had a baby in March. And normally she gets a certain amount of time off. And so the baby comes right after the COVID lockdown. She gets a few weeks, and then they're like, we're so shorthanded. Can you please come back? So she goes back, postpartum, goes back to work and has to deal with all this. My son, who was a body worker, couldn't work. So he's now home being Mr. Mom for an infant. I mean, it was for my children. They had a much tougher time because it was, and we have an assortment of teachers in the family.
Yeah.
And so kids were going to school from home. My grandchildren, my family was all involved in it. So for COVID, for me, like they were like, "Where are you, Mom?" And I'm like, "I'm home." I've already had my marching orders. I can't go anywhere. I'm home. But that was like somebody had tied me to a chair in a tiny little space and said, "Do not move, or I'm going to shoot you." That's what I felt like.
Yeah.
It was bizarre, surreal.
Yeah.
I don't know how. And so to hear that there's a place on earth where COVID didn't get to, I was just like, I'm like astounded. It's like, I almost can't.
So
take
now
it in.
everybody's going to want to go there. And then they'll be like,
we just let the secret out.
Yeah, we'll let the secret out.
It's truly bizarre. And my sister got married in Brisbane, which is at like the bottom in the southeast of Queensland, and they have a little bit down there, and by a little I'm meaning like single digit numbers and stuff. It's nothing like what you're used to, and we had to wear masks. They have a mask mandate down there, and when you fly you have to wear a mask. So I flew down there in August for her wedding, and so I had the mask on at the airport going down. I've just entered it was like the science fiction show where they used to move in different realities, and that's what it felt like. I came from this one and I moved into this other one, and suddenly it was all like, get away from me, don't come near me.
I went to the dentist because I have a TMJ a little bit where I was sick and I was stressing about being sick. I had developed my TMJ got bad again, because it's a stress related thing. And so I go to the dentist for them to check to make sure I haven't cracked a tooth, because I'm hurting. And so I go in and there is shrink wrap on the lobby in the greeting area, and that's why I had to wait in my car, and they came out, checked me, tested me, and then took me in. I go in, everybody's wearing like hazmat suits with masks and then face shields, and it was like walking into a sci-fi movie. I mean, it was literally like those labs where the creature breaks through and escapes and kills everybody. And I was just going in there, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to stay. I mean, it was like really bizarre. I was the only one. Because, they have to look in your mouth, so there's no way not to do it. So I was the only unmasked person in the entire building. And everybody else looked like I was radioactive. I mean, it was just... Yeah,
it's bizarre,
crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And
now,
I think
now I've gotten used to it, though. I don't know about you, but I started out wearing the medical mask, and now I was showing Susan my mask to wear to the conference. I've got pink ones and blue ones, and... all different colors.
She doesn't like the purple.
No, I don't like the purple. The purple is very, very bright. No one would be looking at anything except my mask because it's that bright.
Mine have numbats and bird and lorikeets. So.
That's my grandchildren all have them with characters, and their parents are cool. They've got them all the fun stuff. So they're just troopers about it. I mean, they'll remember this when they grow up. They'll go, Remember when COVID was around? We wore the masks, what did yours have on it? And that's what they'll be talking about. What did your mask have on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
my grandson was thrilled because I have his name on his. So he was running around, and now he's got his little friends saying they want theirs. So I've been making little masks with all these names on it.
I think that's cool. Oh, you have the fancy screen printer that you
Yes.
make like the very nice. I thought about getting them with my author name, but I didn't go anywhere. So where would I wear it? I mean,
exactly. You can brand yourself, but then
yeah, but where?
Look in the mirror and say, "Oh, I know this author."
Look, the woman in the car, she's got on a mask.
With everything that has gone on, and obviously it's impacted everyone's creativity, and I think it's also impacted readers. I've noticed certainly on Susan's website there was a bit of an uptick in aggression because Susan wasn't producing at a rate that they thought she should.
I've got the best readers in the world. My readers were so kind. I would say, I have to move this because I'm not feeling well. And I didn't go into details about what was wrong, but I did tell them I was sick because, you set deadlines and I try to keep them. You don't want to let your readers down ever. It's just, you're flattered enough that they're even reading your work. And then of course it's the way you choose to make a living. So you rely on them. And so you want to say, I'm coming back. Please don't give up on me. And my readers will write me and go, oh, you're fine. We'll just wait. Whenever you get it done, it's fine. And everybody was just so kind. So I know what you're saying. I saw a lot of that in responses. And I know I've heard a lot of authors say they got that. I was blessed. I was blessed. My readers were awesome.
Do you think from a creative point of view that you're at a stage where you can use some of the downsides of last year and this year to kind of add more emotion or more connectivity into your writing, or is it still, is it too soon?
I have a friend who was a young adult author, and she wrote a lot of post-apocalyptic things about viruses and pandemics and the results of those. And then being a sci-fi person, how many of these have we watched? I mean, it's a common theme. I don't write them, but you do have them. Am I tempted to write about anything concerning it? Not this moment, but I'm the same way about a lot of illnesses. That said, I do have a storyline that has a virus in it, but it's not going to play that big of a role where I don't know where I write it. I'm not ready to. I guess maybe the answer is yes. I'm just not ready to yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus I write comedy. So last year I focused on happy. Anytime I was writing, I wanted to cheer people up, give them an escape. I figured if they were even half as miserable as I was, they needed it. That was my theory. And then, I was praying for my daughter-in-law every day, worried that she was going to get sick, bring it home to her baby, my son, or my grandson. I was just worried about her every single day. There's not a day. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not really.
Yeah. Which does lead me into a happier question. Tell us about, because I'm truly fascinated, your aliens in kilt series.
Oh, I love that series.
Two things you would put together necessarily. I haven't seen it done anywhere else. Okay. So we've got.
I think that was absolutely brilliant.
Susan and I have a mutual author friend, Eve Longley. She had a conference in Canada, and another author friend, mutual friend, Robin, who you've had on the podcast, and I we were critique partners. And we're friends. So Robin and I were going to Eve's conference in Canada. So we go to Canada, and then we're on our way home. We're sitting in the airport waiting on our plane, and there's news on in French. I don't speak French. Robin speaks, I think Robin understood a little, but I don't speak any French. I took Spanish in school. You take what you take. So I'm getting pretty much everything that this person's saying, but I'm not understanding the language. And so I'm watching this guy talk about this fire, and then of course they're showing fire engines in the fire and putting it out and the damage. And it's not too hard to figure it out from the pictures alone, but I thought to myself, this must be what aliens feel like, because my mind works like that. Authors do work like that. So I'm thinking there, and I thought, that's something that's not been done. Nobody's written about alien in kilts. And so because I have a Celtic background. So I was just like, yeah, that's what I want to write. Alien in kilts. And it'll be funny. It'll be a spoofy thing. It'll be like spoofy instead of like a real alien abduction novels. Like, my friends write. I will write a spoofy thing. And so I came up with these characters that were in the 1950s, and they are Scots, Irish, and they're living in Ireland. And then they basically get abducted because they just happen to be a genetic match. It's like the theory of alternate realities, where there's like maybe 12 of them, and you exist in all. And that was what I based this on. They existed in all of these realities, but the real ones and the big reality that I'm talking about, and let's call them the world one reality, alternate one, and they died. And so they went to this one, which is 6, and they picked these 2 up. And that 6, though, they were not married, they were not a couple, they were not anything. In fact, they were adversarial at best. But she did love him, but he, didn't feel the same. So there was this adversarial situation. But you plunk them down in a different reality with a job to do and people to save, and now you've got these 2 people out of place, have known nothing about technology, they barely knew about televisions, and so it was just like a lot of fun. And he woke up without his kilt, and that was the first thing he asked for. What did you do with my kilt? Because he was wearing a kilt when he got abducted, and he wanted, but it wouldn't come through the time machine because it was organic material. It was made out of wool, and so pretty much the series is him getting his kilt back. In a different form, of course. In their reality, they don't kill animals anymore. So anyway, yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It was a way to play with time travel and abduction and aliens, and it was just fun.
Another one of those great, where do I put it in?
Yeah.
Where does it go on the shelf?
It fits nowhere, but it's just like the Orville. Was the Orville like Star Trek, or was it like Firefly, which I love both of those?
Yeah.
No, the Orville was off in left field doing, you're making fun of things. So I watched the Orville and I thought, that's it. That's where I hit. That's that zone. Well, how do you sell that? Well, it's not an easy thing to sell. Alien Kilts just kind of floats around out there. I've tried 3 cover artists making covers for it, and none have been able to follow my train of thought when I try to explain. And I've made a couple and I'm not happy with any of them. I would like to have different covers. I think it would sell better if I had great covers on it, but I don't even know, but I don't regret it. I have one more book to write in and I plan to do it. I just haven't taken the time to finish that series, because the reality is, if you're writing and trying to put food on the table, you have to write what sells. And that much I have done. You have to, or I wouldn't still be writing after 10 or 11 years.
I guess just to close up the interview, for say our beginning authors, people just starting out, what would be the advice that you would give them? 1, 2, or 3 bits of advice?
A lot of people read these little tiny novels where the couple is having sex on page 3 and there's no storyline to that. And does that sell? Yeah, it sells for a little while, maybe even for a few years or so. But then what do people remember down the line? I have a backlist that still sells. I have books that are 12 years old. That's something that they don't even do well in the traditional market. But I think because I took my time with the books, and I still write what I consider full stories, meaning that my average book is like probably 75, 80,000 words. Novellas to me are 40,000, which are books to some people. If you want to do it, it depends on whether you just have that one book you want to do or whether you want to make a living. I mean, the approach is on that. There's a lot of great information out there. A lot of great information. One thing, if I could go back in my own time, I mean, when I started, I paid $50 for my first cover. I had to borrow the money from my husband, my fiance at the time. He wasn't even my husband. And a good cover is critical. Learn how to write blurb. They're difficult, but you can do it. I did it. It's hard, and it's still hard. Everyone is hard. 85 books later, it's still hard. It hasn't changed. And get it edited. Start it with your friends if you have to, but you're going to get bad reviews if it's not nice. And now there are things like Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid that are very, very useful, because I have trouble with, I write so fast, I miss words, they're missing. And no matter how many people I have looking at it, there's always some missing words that get overlooked. I found that online software editing catches a lot of those. And I also use the talk to text. It's basically where you can highlight the text and your computer will read it to you. And I do that, and that helps too. So you've got to offer a clean product. No matter what topic you choose to write about, it has to be a clean product.
Yeah.
And then you also have to, if you want to last, you have to entertain people, because that's why people read, for entertainment. I mean, I'm writing fiction. I'm not writing a textbook or a nonfiction book.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Know what business model you want to use, and then use the strategies for that business model. What
Yes.
I see happen with a lot of authors is that they're using, they don't know what they want, what the outcome is. So, what are they writing for? Is it just to earn money? Then that could well just be the KU, churn it out, templated type model, and there's specific strategies for that. Or if you want to write the stories that you want to write and you want to be wide, there's specific strategies, once again for that. So you really do need to know your business model.
I write for that email. A lot of people know this about me. It's not a secret. It was on TV, and I had a brief appearance on this Day show in 2014. It's on the website, and that was because I took care of my oldest daughter for a year when she was dying from cancer. And then after she was gone, I sat around staring at the walls, and I'd always wanted to write. And it was only after that, when I couldn't go back to normal work. There was I wasn't capable. So I stared at the walls for a while. And then one day I sat down and started writing. And a couple of weeks later, I typed the end on The Shaman's Mate, which was my very first fantasy novel, and still out there. It's not my best book, but it is a decent book for a first novel. But it is right. I write for that, and so when I get these emails saying I'm in the hospital with my daughter or my child or whatever, and I read your books and you made me laugh, and just thank you. Please don't stop. And they tell me this. Please don't stop writing, as if I'm going to stop. I probably won't ever. I would hope to be doing that when I'm 90. But that's what I write for. Making a living at it. I've done a lot of. I've scrubbed toilets. I've sold newspapers. I've done a lot of things for a living. And I have a master's degree in English, and that includes teaching English. I mean, but I went to school late in life, so I know how to make money and get by. But there's been nothing like writing for me. So I want to make this business work because I want to keep doing it forever, and I want it to pay for my life forever. In my retirement, I'm hoping that if there ever is such a thing, that I'm writing 2 books a year instead of 6. That's my idea of retirement now. It's changed. I will always write. It's just a matter of how fast, how hard, how much do I have to do. Susan and I were talking about this just today, wasn't it, Susan, today?
Yes, just today. And she also typed me into another story.
I did. Because I was trying, because I had a deadline. I almost missed it. And, it's because my plane, they wouldn't let me use the computer on the plane when it was a 2-hour trip. It was delayed 45 minutes. So that was 45 minutes more I lost. We got here at midnight because it was a late flight. And then I worked, after Susan went to sleep, I worked till 3 a.m. Like, this reminded me of when my kids were little and I would go to college, and I was going to college. And so I did my homework from, 11 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. That was what it was like. I was writing last night. And then this morning I got up and I'm like, I just have one more paragraph or 2 and I'm done. And it was edits and it was revisions and, the harder part. Than just writing it. It's the cleanup to get it ready to go out. And so I got to turn it in. It was just like wilting after that to get it done.
Yes.
So now everybody knows the glamorous part.
Oh yeah.
Being an
very
author.
glamorous. Very glamorous. Yes.
Well, Donna,
thank
you so much for joining us.
I wondered how we would
joining us.
fill up an hour, and here we are, and I didn't even feel the time go by.
That often happens when we all get together and just
Well, it's so good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. You too. Can't wait to get back over there, but that could be a little while.
Yeah, I understand. It goes both ways. I think, we still? I think Americans are still banned elsewhere in the world right now, and I understand that.
Yeah,
I get
it. I think you can go to the UK. Anyway, not many people can come to Australia, so.
I have friends there. I have author friends there. I could go visit. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So head over there.
I wear my mask. I'm really good about that. I have no pride, and I don't care what people think when they look at me. I just put them on. But I do like my colored ones. I've decided that's blue and pink and gray. It's like nice to coordinate. Right. I should have been doing that. It's like, if you're going to be out, there you go. Cheerful, yes.
Brilliant.
Well, we'd like to thank you again for joining us this week.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for inviting me. This was fun. Let's do it again.
We will, definitely. Radio. See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. You know we've got way more information we want to share with you to increase your book sales. So please come and join me at facebook.com. Get my book out there.